At one recent show, comedian Steve Hofstetter was asked this by a member of the audience.
I support everyone's identity regardless if it makes sense to me or not. So my question is, dissociative identity disorder, formerly multiple personality disorder, is considered to be just that, a mental disorder. What makes that different from transgender, non-binary people? Specifically non-binary individuals who identify as they, them.
Okay. First of all, they, them can be singular or plural, and the people who argue that it's always plural don't understand basic grammar. What makes it different is the people who spend their lives studying this and are experts on this say that it is different, and I trust them to know more about a subject that I don't know.
It is almost crazy to ponder how so many have lost the plot to actual experts that study these things for a living because an unqualified person states the opposite. More from Steve.
If you don't trust the entire medical industry to be telling you the truth about that, then you should take your car to a florist the next time it breaks down. Because if you don't trust experts on one thing, why would you trust them on something else? And the fact of the matter is, we need to trust people who have spent their whole adult lives researching something rather than a meme you see once.
He's spot on here. What troubles me is how many people we have lost to this anti-science groupthink in a post-COVID world. And to be clear, COVID is not over. We just pretend like it's over. At this juncture, 1 in 4 Americans do not trust the science from those in the medical field. That's per the Pew Research Center. From climate change to vaccines, 48% of Americans believe that scientists should stay out of public policy debates along political lines. Not that there should only be 2 major parties in this country, let me be clear. It is eerily similar to the policy positions at play and those who make them. More than 50% of Republican voters surveyed do not view scientists as honest, nor do they think scientists are problem solvers. And they gave an even lower score on the topic of being a good communicator. In addition, 64% of conservatives say scientists should stay out of policy debates, which is absurd, and more say they currently have too much rather than not enough policy influence, 34 to 22%. Another 43% describe their influence as about right. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Dems say scientists should be active in policy debates on scientific issues, and 61% say they currently don't have enough influence in shaping policy. This is largely how we elected a president for the second time who can't pronounce the word orange, botches a pandemic, and have someone leading Health and Human Services who has a literal brainworm.
I didn't fully understand dissociative disorder until I met someone who had it, because the way that it's portrayed on TV is utterly ridiculous. But I met a fan who had that and had a caretaker with her because she could become dangerous to herself. And I was talking to her and I had stepped away and I came back and she didn't know that I was there yet. I was walking up behind where they were and she was speaking as if she was like a small child. And then when she realized that I was there again, she kind of shook it off and apologized, like, I didn't want you to see that, that's so embarrassing. And I was like, no, I get that this is something that you're fighting. And it was a lot for me to process because it's not something I had ever seen before. And when you see something that you've never seen before, it takes a while for you to understand it. And I think that that's what's happening now. I think that for the first time, there are a lot of people who are seeing a different gender identity than they understand. And so their first reaction is going, no, that's not a thing. And then if it actually is someone in their life and someone they're talking to, then they start to understand it a little bit more.
I agree with this. I agree with what Steve is saying about how our initial reaction to seeing something that we don't understand to try and play off of those instincts when really what it requires internally for all of us is less judgment and more patience.
And so I think that what we know as a society right now is very different than what we'll know in 5 years or 10 years or 1 year if they close all the schools. But like, it is something that I don't fault people for having trouble grasping immediately. Every one of us had that moment. Every one of us, anyone who pretends that they got it the second they were told it the first time is lying. Because anything that is different to us, it takes a little bit to process.
This is what really gets me in closing. Steve Hofstetter is someone who is clearly brilliant, but he also relies upon people who dedicate their entire lives to studying something so we are a better educated society on the topic. And what we are seeing right now is anti-intellectualism. This movement is taking place. And I actually discussed this with Jamil Hill on my podcast, The Rick Strom Show. You all should check it out. And what she said is, this is, and I'm summarizing, the meta. This is the stuff right now. Oh, you want someone who is qualified? Let's go with the guy who's not qualified. Oh, this person studied a certain topic and should probably not only be nominated, but we should listen to what they have to say. No, let's go with the guy who is cat turd on Twitter because he has an opinion that's the opposite of someone who has degrees studying this. That is where we are at. It's a byproduct, by the way, of social media. I want to be very clear about this. Social media can be good for so many ways, and off topic, but somewhat related. I saw a video playing off the TikTok trend of like gingers are black people. One TikTok user was talking about Blake and how Blake passed away when they were in like 3rd grade. And the power of social media came into play where she reached Blake's mom. They haven't spoken for 20 years, 20 plus years. And then they did. And Blake's mom kept all of his stuff and sent her a photo. If you have a soul, you felt it. It tugged at your heartstrings. That is the power of social media for good. And then you have DC Drano and Jack Posobiec and people who are influencing policy, who not only have ties to foreign dictators and the Shmuanon movement and push Pizzagate, but are avowed white nationalists. It's a gift and a curse. Because what, I'm gonna be clear, many of these platforms have enabled is this hate, because that is what their algorithms push. You could watch something that maybe you weren't even interested in after you viewed it for a minute. You're like, no, I don't agree with this. I'm going to click off. But it was a Ben Shapiro video. Or you didn't know who Ben Shapiro was and you just clicked on it because you had no idea. Or it was an Asmongold video. You had no idea, so you clicked on it. And you hated it, so you clicked off. Their algorithms are then going to push more of that content to you, whether you liked it or not. At that point, you are enslaved to their algorithms. And if you see an Andrew Tate video, as Hassan even talked about on The Daily Show with Jordan Klepper, it's just going to keep pushing it over and over and over, this misogynistic perspective. So if someone logs on and they see something that they could possibly partially slightly believe about COVID or about something RFK says that they take at face value, even though it is a bold-faced lie, then they'll keep pushing it over and over, because what the algorithms want to do is keep you there. And they think feeding you more of that content is going to keep you there. Your eyeballs are their attention and their currency. It's just amazing. It really is how we all viewed this sort of stuff, science on the topic, to be a thing for good. And now what we have taking place in large swaths of this country is the opposite. Is no, I know better on how to treat this than a medical professional. It's wild. And it's also microcosmic of how we got here.
The way that your vehicle was located, I'll have to write you a ticket for improper U-turn. Whenever you complete a U-turn,
I didn't U-turn.
hold on. Whenever you complete a U-turn, you're supposed to be as far to that corner as possible. Okay?
In Oklahoma City, a seemingly innocuous traffic stop is going to take a turn for the worse as we see Sergeant Joseph Gibson speaking with 71-year-old Vietnamese man Lich View, explaining that he is going to get a ticket for allegedly committing an improper U-turn.
I need you to sign with your finger. It's not an admission of guilt. You're just signing saying you'll take care of the citation for a ticket. You're promising saying that you'll take care of it at a later date, whether that be in court or if you take care of it outside of court.
I don't know what you're talking about.
At this point, we have to mention that English is his second language, and there appears to be a language barrier between Gibson and View, which is only compounded by the policing procedures he has to follow and how he explains his side of the story to the officer.
So I'm writing and issuing you a citation for improper U-turn. Yes, sir.
citation. She hitting me and I got
Okay.
a citation.
Sir, you don't believe
I'm not writing a ticket for her hitting you. Okay?
No, she hitting me. You see the...
I'm not
you
writing
see,
a ticket
You see the
for-
evidence? No.
Okay. I don't think that you're understanding what I'm saying here, okay?
As Vu exits his car and continues to try and explain himself to Sergeant Gibson, you could tell that Gibson is getting more and more impatient and frustrated with him.
The front of her hand, her to the digger, and she
Okay.
didn't turn.
Whenever you make a U-turn,
I didn't make a U-turn.
sorry, let me clarify, okay? Whenever you enter a little intersection thing like that, you are not allowed to go side by side next to a car, okay? You have to go behind vehicles.
Hey, you are the police.
Yes.
So you know
Okay.
how many cars?
We are done, sir? No, we're done arguing about this, okay? We are not arguing about this,
I
okay?
want to show you.
We argue in court. We argue in court.
You take the phone and...
We argue in court.
No,
We don't argue on the side of the road. We argue in court. Yes, that's how it works. Because if not, if you don't sign this, you go to jail. Okay? I don't want to take you to jail.
I'm ready to go to jail.
You ready to go to jail?
Yeah, I'm
Ridiculous. Okay,
No,
that involves impounding your car too. Okay.
As Gibson gives another driver a ticket for expired tags, presumably the same driver Vu claims hit his car, Vu's wife approaches Gibson and is quickly dismissed.
Can you roll me another unit? I got this guy up here and a supervisor. He's refusing to sign a ticket. And he's wanting to go to jail.
We stay here waiting for go to here. We not U-turn.
Okay,
We waiting to
it doesn't
go
matter
here.
about a U-turn or whatever. That lane,
And I heard
can't-
she beat us. She hit us.
I understand that, but you're not. You see where that car's at? Whenever you enter that area, that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to leave any space at all. You're not supposed to leave any space at all.
You see that two car?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
I am the
The
third
way
car.
where
I'm the
your
third
vehicle
car.
was located, your
Third
vehicle
car.
was not like that.
Sit up.
No.
You sit up.
All it took is one measly bump to Gibson's vest and Vu telling him to shut up and listen to him for Gibson to slam Vu face first into the pavement. And for all the bootlickers out there, first off, something like this should never be the outcome of a simple traffic stop if the officer is actually in control of the situation. And secondly, what immediate threat of harm did Vu pose to Gibson that justified this violence? Tapping his vest with his finger and telling him to shut up, if you legitimately think that Gibson was put in danger by Vu's actions, you need to do some serious self-reflection.
I need the ambulance.
Yeah, I'm gonna call an ambulance.
Look at his face.
112 Hefner, roll me fire.
As Vu lays motionless on the ground with his wife looking on in obvious horror, we could see the brutality of Gibson's takedown from a local business's security footage that was released alongside Gibson's body cam recording. That one completely insignificant bump to Gibson's vest, combined with his frustration with Vu for not immediately following his demands, largely due to a language barrier, has forever changed the lives of everyone in Vu's family, as Gibson's violence caused irreparable harm to Vu. In the immediate aftermath of this disgusting act of police brutality, Vu's daughter Teresa posted on IG that her 5'3", 115-pound father suffers from bone cancer and suffered a fractured neck, brain bleed, dents to the side of his head, a fractured orbital bone causing his eye to be swollen shut, memory loss, confusion, and problems walking. Vu reportedly just returned home from the hospital in the first week of December, spending over a month in recovery, while Sergeant Gibson was given a paid vacation as the department conducted an internal investigation. On top of all that, OKC Vietnamese American Community President Tuan Nguyen told multiple outlets that Vu has been unable to continue his cancer treatments since the assault. Predictably, local police union President Mark Nelson released this gross statement in support of Joseph Gibson after he was surprisingly slapped with a felony aggravated assault and battery charge following the internal investigation, having the audacity to say that Gibson handled the case with, quote, professionalism, and accused Vu of assaulting Gibson first, thus justifying how Gibson manhandled Vu under the guise of de-escalation. Another lifelong Vietnamese resident of OKC spoke to PBS's Adam Kemp
and said that her father also gets frustrated whenever he can't properly articulate himself in English, giving credence to Vu's reaction and frustrations with Gibson during the stop. She even had to sit down with her father and explain that if he ever finds himself in a similar situation, to keep to himself to avoid provoking an officer in response, like what we saw from Gibson. While it's good advice to remain silent and only answer the specific questions you're legally required to when talking to law enforcement, the fact that we even have to have this conversation is a major indictment of how law enforcement in this country operates. No one should fear violent retribution simply for disagreeing with a police officer's administration of the law, or lack thereof. But when the system was put in place to protect and serve the interests of ultra-wealthy capital owners instead of the people being exploited by said capital owners, what else do you expect would happen? We hope Vu can recover from his injuries, and he and his family receive at least some semblance of justice for Sergeant Joseph Gibson's misconduct.
This was good.
The Apprentice, the film that you're referencing, really underlines the stakes that we were talking about a few minutes ago. Roy Cohn, I see essentially as the progenitor of fake news and alternative facts. And we're living in the aftermath of what I think he created.
The Apprentice, a movie made by Ali Abbasi, starred Jeremy Strong as Trump's friend and former chief counsel to Joseph McCarthy, Roy Cohn.
I think that this time where truth is under assault, where truth is becoming an increasingly endangered thing, that the role of stories, of cinema, of art, but here specifically at this temple of film, the role of film is increasingly critical because it can combat those forces and the entropy of truth, and it can communicate truths, individual truths, human truths, societal truths, and affirm and celebrate our shared humanity. So I would say that what I'm here doing this year is, in a way, a counterbalance to what Roy Cohn was doing last year.
You see, Cohn is a man who greatly influenced Donald Trump to be the conniving cheat that he is today. Some say Cohn was Trump's mentor or even his surrogate father. This much is clear. Roy Cohn was Trump's model in the handling of public relationships and media warfare, wrote NPR's Ron Elving. Cohn was known for pushing aggressive tactics to the limits and beyond, especially for filing lawsuits and countersuits to bully his adversaries. Sound familiar? Well, it should. Cohn would eventually be disbarred, but his practices remain rather prevalent. Cohn, who died in August 1986 at age 59, greatly influenced Donald Trump for decades to come, instilling a win-at-all-cost mentality that Trump himself has brought to politics and all the way to the White House, added biography.com. He would represent the Trumps in their reported violations of the Fair Housing Act when they marked a C, meaning what they meant was the C was for colored people. Colored people, that's what they said. Because as we learned, even in a Nixon administration, it seemed as though they were in violation of that federal law. Cohn would take the case, they would settle in court, and the Trumps would never have to say that they bared any responsibility, and they would not have to admit to any wrongdoing. He and Roy Cohn would go on to speak 15 to 20 times per day, and Roy Cohn would even introduce Donald Trump to Rupert Murdoch. When asked by Esquire, why did you decide to focus on Roy Cohn as a subject, documentarian Matt Turnauer gave the following response. I was very aware of his relationship with Donald Trump and the fact that he had a huge influence on him. Having done a lot of research and now made a film, I think that that's actually understating it. I think Roy Cohn created a president from beyond the grave.
I guess I would say, I don't want to tell people to go see this movie, but I would say that if you're interested in the state of the world and interested in the fate of America and the repercussions that this election will have on the rest of the world, that it's essential to understand who Donald Trump is, really, what made him the way he is, how he became the Donald Trump that we know, and how we got to where we are now, and that is what the film is about in a way that is based entirely on historical record. Churchill said this thing in 1948 famously, that those that fail to learn from the past are condemned to repeat it. We don't often look enough into the past to understand today, but that's what the film is doing. And I think storytelling and filmmaking is sort of supremely positioned to help us understand the world and illuminate sort of things that we're not getting from our news feeds and the algorithms and from Wikipedia pages of history.
What this really does explain are the intricacies of Donald Trump. Yes, he learned a ton from his dad, Fred Trump, who was, according to many reports, arrested at a KKK rally. But he also learned a ton from someone that has been called his surrogate father in Roy Cohn. And the reason that I feel this film is must watch is not only because Jeremy Strong is truly brilliant at what he does, but it will explain so much to so many people on how Donald Trump learned to be the way that he is, whether in the public eye or behind the scenes, from his mentor. There is one scene in the trailer which shows Roy Cohn, recording conversations. And when Trump says that's illegal, Cohn basically tells him sometimes you just got to push the envelope. Everything that we have seen from Roy Cohn and everything that we have heard of Roy Cohn has been instilled in Donald Trump. The amount of times that he has countersued, even in that Fair Housing Act violation that we discussed moments ago, they countersued. And they knew that they would be unsuccessful, but they did it anyway. That is a Trumpian staple to a T. They're probably in violation of something. They're probably guilty of something. I'll just sue them. What's the best way to intimidate someone? Sue them. I remember covering a story not long ago where an architect built parts of Trump Doral or Trump Bedminster, one of the Trump golf properties. And what did Donald Trump do? He stiffed the architect. And when the architect said to him, hey, you owe me this amount of money, he goes, sue me. See what happens. It's a strong arming game that Donald Trump likes to play. Another thing that he learned from Roy Cohn, never admit fault. Always punch back harder and harder and harder. Propel yourself to be on top using your words and your tactics. I mean, the funny thing is Trump will put out these quotes saying that, yeah, Roy Cohn was just a friend. He didn't have a large influence on me. Bullcrap, he did. Because what we have seen are the remnants of Cohn in Donald Trump. And on top of this, when James Comey would not bend the knee to Trump, and when Jeff Sessions, former Attorney General, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, would not bend the knee to Donald Trump, he let out, according to the New York Times, in a fit of rage, where is my Roy Cohn? This is a must-see, not just because the Trump administration really, and I mean really, did not want this film to see the public eye, but because it shows how powerful these stories are and how, as Strong said, we can certainly learn from it.
Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYTsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day. Calling out elite people in comedy should be the rule of thumb.
I think Donald Trump's hair is actually another creature.
Yeah.
The hair's like going, good night, Donald. Good night, Donald. Here we go.
Maybe it goes out. It goes out and makes money while he's asleep.
There is something about punching down that feels taboo, and punching up is the way to go.
Crack's not really my thing, but if it was, it would be fine if I was on that side.
Wow.
Don Jr.'s on coke.
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. I'm a very stable genius.
It is very important, the work that the Jordan Kleppers are doing, the work that the Good Liars are doing, the work that our team here at the Turks are doing, and many more.
Used to see these tackles, now they tackle. Oh, head-on-head collision, bing, flag. Football's become soft.
You have Trump doing sound effects for tackles. The choice could not be more clear. Like, let's not beat around the bush about it.